So I was watching a video today about people who are disappointed with their expectations and their experience in Paris, and I wanted to make a little video and make a few comments about this. Number one, you have to keep in mind that things on the internet are almost always doctored. People have been using filters since before there were digital cameras. I remember my father was a photographer. That was his first career. And so I'm aware of photography tricks and things. I remember the first time I went to Zion National Park and saw what it really looked like and my dad said, "Oh yeah, all those photos you've seen, they're all filtered. You'll never see those places. You'd have to know where they were and put the filter on to see it that way." So I was glad I had that because as a young man I learned that a lot of things are not as they appear to be when you see them in real life. Paris is the same way. People have this romantic idea about Paris. I've been to Paris. I've been to France 4 times. I've only been to Paris once. But when I came back from Paris, I was still on the dating apps, and I had a girl who contacted me and said, "Oh yeah, you've been to France. How was it?" I said, "I liked everything about France except for Paris," and she unmatched me immediately. I think because she had this romanticized image of Paris in her mind and could not abide the notion that I was going to destroy her delusions and expectations. Well, she'll get there and she'll see for herself. And I was in Paris in May of 2023, and it was not too bad. I wasn't in Paris for very long. I flew into Paris because that's the international airport. So I flew into de Gaulle. I flew out of de Gaulle. But my friend who I visit lives in Bretagne in Saint-Malo, or right outside of Saint-Malo. And so I left Paris almost immediately and caught the last train out of town, headed to Saint-Malo for the night. So I was only in Paris for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours the first day. And then I got back into town, I think about 9 a.m. the day I flew out, and my flight was at 3. So again, I was only in Paris for like 9 hours. And I did see the Louvre, I did see Notre Dame, I did see the Eiffel Tower. I didn't see the Arc de Triomphe because it was a little bit further than I was willing to walk. And I wanted to make sure I got to the airport in time. It was also raining, so I think that also helped. Because it was raining, I think I had a very different experience in Paris. Apparently, there's a lot of migrants and people all over the street. When it's raining, I have found that people don't like to be outside. And so I like to travel when there's bad weather because it means I'm frequently the only person in the photos. And in fact, I have a picture of me in front of the Eiffel Tower, and there's no one in the picture but me. There's puddles in the grass behind it, there's a person who took my picture, then I took his picture, and then we went our separate ways. And there's a whole bunch of people hiding out underneath things to keep out of the rain. And it wasn't super bad rain. I mean, it was enough that I got wet, but there was so much enough rain that the streets were pretty clear. And so I have pictures of Paris that probably look like what people expect Paris to look like if Paris is wet. But what I really want to talk about is disabusing yourself of the notion that the capital city is the only thing worth seeing. On the day that my friend and I went to Tours, we came back and we had a little bit of extra time before we had to pick up his daughter from high school. She was 14 then. And I said, well, I'd seen a couple of signs on the highway, and I said, why don't we stop and see this cathedral in a city called Dol de Bretagne, which I really recommend. There's a train stop there, and I went through it on the way, but I wasn't paying attention because I'd never been to Bretagne or Normandy before. And so I wasn't paying attention. On the way back, I noticed, and it's like, yep, the train station is pretty close to the cathedral. So if you don't have a car like we did, because my friend lives there and had a car and a work iPhone that we used for navigation, we were able to make a stop there. And I think we're only there for like an hour and a half, but it was definitely worth the stop. So Dol de Bretagne is an older capital of France. Dol de Bretagne seems to be the Celtic capital of France after Charlemagne took over when the Roman Empire collapsed. And if you look at old maps of historical Europe, you'll see that Bretagne was an independent kingdom under Celtic rule until about the 1500s when the French king, not the Frankish king, finally decided to absorb it into France. And it's been in part of France ever since. So it was their capital after the Roman Empire collapsed because the Franks, for some reason, didn't go into Bretagne, which I don't know. So in Bretagne, there's a lot of Celtic stuff. There's Celtic statues, Celtic monuments, and their cathedral there is also obviously Celtic. So the cathedral there has 4 different build levels. The first level is the Roman era, because there was a church there when the Romans were in what's now modern France. And then there's a second level on top of that, which there's a marking inside the church that says that was rebuilt after the siege of John Lackland. And I'm like, King John of England? They didn't even call him the King John. So that's very France for you. And then there's a modern one. And then there's a section that's not completed yet because when it was absorbed into France, they put a stop order on the completion of construction. The cathedral in Dol de Bretagne, if it was finished, they said, would be larger than Notre Dame. And it's a very unique cathedral. It has some different features. One of the things that's the coolest about it is it still has an intact reliquary that hasn't been plundered, which is really rare in France. So you can go in and see all the relics, some of which are Celtic, and I have some pictures of them because I know what Celtic relics look like. I learned that from the Last Kingdom. Ooh, this is Irish work. Well, it's Celtic work, but yeah, whatever. And so you can go in and see it, and you don't have to pay. There's a guard there and a video camera that watches you, but everything was free unless you want to buy food. So, and there's a whole bunch of streets that radiate from the cathedral. It was clearly at one point the center of town. Most of Dol de Bretagne's streets are still cobblestone. There's a section downtown on the main road through the modern town that has asphalt on it, but all the sidewalks are still cobblestone. So you get kind of the feel for old ancient France, which is rare in that part of the country because basically in World War II, the United States Air Force and artillery of the United States Army, the Army Air Corps, basically pulverized every town into the dirt. There's a plaque on the inside of the cathedral there that talks about the American commander negotiated with the German commander to fight outside the town and save the historic city of Dol de Bretagne, which was a really good move. There is a house on the main drag just to the west of the Hôtel de Ville, which is the city hall. It's not a hotel, it's the city hall. That is 1,000 years old. And there's a plaque there on the wall, and you can see it. So you can see 1,000 years of French architecture and French history, because it's a city that we didn't plow into the ground when we went through France trying to root out the Nazis. There's markers there. It's clear they expected Americans to come there, because the markers are just in English. And there's at least 23 of them. I didn't find all of them. They were not... I remember, I think the first one we found was number 23. So we know there's at least 23 of them, and I didn't find all 23. But they're in English. They expected tourists to be there, but they were surprised we were there. My friend doesn't speak French. I do. So we're sitting outside of a cafe. Cafe, as he has his café con lait. He always say café du lait. I'm like, coffee of milk? Okay. But we'd sit there, and we had to speak English loudly. He's from Maryland initially, so he has a southern accent, and I have whatever you consider this accent. So we're talking in loud English on the main drag as French people go about their business, parents picking up their children from school and going out to grab a bite on the way home. And none of them were offended that we were there. I think they were just surprised. And we talked to my friend's in-law, because his family's married into a French family, and they said, oh yeah, most of these people haven't seen an American since World War II. So I definitely recommend it. It's a different kind of capital. There's no migrants there. There were just French people, Britannians, probably mostly Britons, and almost no tourists. But it is advertised. You can go see it. It's free once you get there. As far as I can tell, everything in that town is free. That's we wouldn't have to pay for anywhere. Food, drinks, obviously, parking. Except for we were able to park in a space that was like you could park there for an hour for free near the cathedral. Oh, one of the other things that was really cool is old Britannian doorways. So I took a picture, and like the tops of their doors are like here on my shoulders. And I'm not super tall, but it means that, I'm tallish, 181 centimeters, but it means that, Britannians were like 165 centimeters tall tops. So it's actually really funny to walk down the streets, see the old buildings, see the old doors, and I felt like I saw France in Dole. I didn't see Paris. Paris is an international city. Paris is an important capital city. Paris is a center of finance and travel, art. They've had the Olympics there. There's a lot of military buildings in Paris that you don't have in Dol de Bretagne, because obviously the military is not run out of Dole anymore and hasn't been for centuries. But if you really want to see a French town and see some of the same grandeur that you would see in Paris without any of the crowds, without any of the other adornments that drag a city's quality down, I definitely recommend that you head out to Dol de Bretagne and check it out. You take the train that heads out to Saint-Malo. I think it's about a half an hour before you get to Saint-Malo. And if you're going to head out that way anyway, go out, get out of the capital city and see some of the other regions. I was very grateful I was able to go to Cannes, Bayeux, and Carentan, and Zigny, Sur-la-Mer, where Walt Disney's ancestors are from, to Dinard, Saint-Malo, to Tours, Angers, Nantes, Poitiers, and that was just on that trip alone. So it was a very good 12-day trip to France. Well, very well worth it, made possible by a good friend. So if you can get out of the capital city, go see a few other things. Get out of the major cities, and you'll actually see the country, and you'll see a lot less of the crime and the multiculturalism that changes the country that you're seeing into any other city in any other country that has a multicultural basis and that has had long-standing immigration. Not that that's bad, but people don't go to France to see Moroccan culture, and people don't go to Austria to see to see Zimbabwean culture. They go to Austria for Mozart and for the palaces and the grandeur of empire. And so if you want to go see those things, sometimes you may have to leave the capital city. And that's definitely the case for Paris. Does it mean Paris isn't worth visiting? No. The Louvre is a giant, enormous museum. I haven't been inside of it. It's so big, it would probably take you days to see the whole thing anyway. When I was there, Notre Dame was still being repaired from the big fire. So it doesn't look as pretty from the outside because of the scaffolding. I definitely recommend seeing the Eiffel Tower when it's raining. So you can get pictures without anyone else in your photo. And the Arc de Triomphe it's one more famous triumphal arches of the Roman Empire. But there are others in other places. Just no go to Barcelona because that one was destroyed by the Spaniards about 100 years ago. So it's not there anymore. Well, there's a brick one. They rebuilt it. And like Romans didn't use bricks. So anyway, get out of the big cities. Go see the country. And you'll find the country in the country. Safe travels. Godspeed. Take care.